Hello, I'd like to call to order the joint meeting of the City Council and the Minnehaha County Commissioners of Tuesday, March 28, 2017. Please join us in standing and reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd note that there's a quorum here of the Minnehaha County Commissioners.
And City Clerk, could you do a roll call, please, of the council?
Council members Erickson.
Here.
Erpenbach.
Here.
Kylie.
Here.
Neitzert.
Here.
Rolfing. Selberg.
Present.
Starr.
Here.
Staley.
Here. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the agenda for the Minnehaha County Commissioners.
Madam Chair, question on the agenda. We on our agenda have an item of old business and new business, which allows us to discuss other issues that may occur to us, allowing us to brainstorm slightly. That's not on the city agenda, and I'm perfectly willing to accept our agenda, but it does have that variance off of the city agenda.
My understanding that the agenda does have a place for old business and new business, the agenda that I'm looking at. Is that not correct?
We do not have old business, but there is a place for new business if needed, but it would require a vote of the council to bring new business forward.
Mr. Chair, if I might, it says new business and it has a specific item under it. It does not reflect what the County Commission version has, which includes old business and new business with no items under them. So that being said, do you want a motion to amend the agenda for the city?
I'll go to the City Clerk for clarification on.
Council, we don't have old business on our order of business ordinance, which is why it never shows up on our agendas. The county can discuss old business if they wish. We can't take action on it. Under new business, if there's something that the council wishes to discuss or the county wishes to discuss in a joint venture under new business, they can discuss it, but they cannot take action. That would require a vote of 6 members. Does that make sense?
Madam Chair, if I may again, so I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as it's printed here, and certainly I would not anticipate us taking any action, but we may, in my opinion, it would be an opportunity to discuss other things that and brainstorm slightly as we look at our future working together. And I'll make a motion to approve our agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Motion to approve the agenda on the city side?
So moved.
Second?
Second, Selberg.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Council members Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzert.
Yes.
Rolfing. Sorry, Selberg.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Okay, the first item to consider is the motion to adopt a resolution of the joint City of Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County 2040 Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you, City Council members, Commissioners. Jeff Schmidt, representing planning staff here this afternoon, and with me is Albert Schmidt from the City Planning Office. We were last in front of the County Commissioners in October with the informational meeting on the comprehensive plan, and we've recently been in front of the City Council getting adoption of this comprehensive plan. Today is an update, and we're asking for an adoption of our comprehensive plan, really for, as we'll show you, the joint area outside of the city limits in this joint area that we have. The executive summary is that the state law gives us the authority to have comprehensive plans. We typically adopt these every 10 to 15 years, and we currently have been working to adopt from the 2035 up to the year 2040 comprehensive plan. Through that, we've continued to look at updating our city limits. We've looked at the areas outside of our city limits into our joint areas. We looked at the annexation areas. We looked at our goals and objectives, as well as looking at all the municipalities within both Minnehaha and Lincoln County. And really, in the end, through all of our public meetings and our public discussions, we looked at looking to update our population projections, our future land use areas, and the most important thing was the discussions with the municipalities on these joint jurisdiction areas. So Albert did the majority of these, but we've had these past public meetings, and all the public meetings that we've had starting back in May of 2016 up to today. The population projections for the City of Sioux Falls, we updated from the sheet on the top to the down in the bottom. We have a little bit of a change downwards just because we had, since 2008 and 2009, we had a little bit of an economic recession, but that changed where we were looking at when we go out to the year 2035 and 2040. That also then started to look at adjusting our future land use map. Our future land use map's on the left, our new one is on the right to the 2040. We added the communities that are in this area in both Lincoln County and Minnehaha County. We also tried to make sure that we were including new growth areas that we were developing into, as well as existing growth areas, so that neighborhoods or communities that, neighborhoods really, if they were looking at developing what they should expect in their neighborhoods. That led us to our utility plans. We knew our growth management, we knew how much we were growing, when we were growing, and so then we updated water, sewer, storm sewer, parks, all the utilities to show how we were going to grow and how we were going to grow. And with that, this is the actual part of the adoption that we wanted to really highlight. This is the adoption that we're asking for this joint body. The City of Sioux Falls has already adopted the comprehensive plan. That takes it out to the white area, to the black line, and the area that we're looking at to be a comprehensive plan in the joint areas, that salmon pink area for Minnehaha County, and it's adjusting it outwards to make sure that there's someone looking at really this joint area between Minnehaha and Lincoln County. And as you're all aware, then we sit down jointly between the two bodies at a planning commission and city council and try to address issues just like you're doing today in these types of areas. So with that, we're trying to make sure we're meeting state law and not going outside of a 6-mile area, but making sure that we're equidistant between our city and any other cities. And then Albert has 2 other maps. So we've worked with Hartford and with Crooks to make sure that our boundary is equidistant between the 2 communities, and or we've come to an agreement with those 2 communities, and that's the boundaries that you're seeing today. So I would ask for any questions or a motion to approve.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Staley or Councilmember Staley? Sorry.
Okay. Right now, when this little area that is outside of our city of Sioux Falls, when they want to, when something comes up, do they have a planning commission for just for Minnehaha County? Does it go to a separate body of people?
A joint body. They go to the joint body of City of Sioux Falls and Minnehaha County.
Planning commission?
Correct.
And do they have the same planning commission people that we have for our city on that?
Yep, but it's a joint body, just like this joint body. It goes to the, so that doesn't change.
So Minnehaha, but does Minnehaha have its own planning commission too?
Yes.
Or, so if it's outside of the city limits, why wouldn't that right now be just going to the Minnehaha County Planning Commission?
The area on this map in front of you that's outside of the salmon, that goes to just Minnehaha County, but there's this joint body. It's the same right here in this example. There's things that only Minnehaha County addresses, and there's things that only the City of Sioux Falls addresses, but the joint area is shared by a joint body.
Joint area goes 6 miles?
Nope,
Or,
just-
I mean, what determines, once Sioux Falls ends,
Yep.
okay, our city limit ends, then the joint part comes outside of that a little bit, you're saying that's?
Correct. This little bit, this little teal, this little area here.
And those people are not annexed into the city yet?
Correct.
And so, and right, are they happy to have the city coming in and helping to shape their zoning policies?
Happy probably be the best term, yes.
Well, and the county could, I mean, is the county's happy for that too? That we've got the city coming together on this? Or would they rather just have the Minnehaha County Planning Commission? Just give me a little history on that.
I would just answer that. We've done this way for a long time, and it just makes the transition seamlessly. Sometimes there's agricultural property that wants to move into a housing area, and the city says, well, this is going to be part of our property in the joint area, and the landowner really wants to be residential, and so we'll have those discussions jointly, like, are you guys going to give them sewer? Are they going to end up on your system? So we've been doing this for years, and we just have a small joint area outside, and like they said, we meet and discuss those things where we both have the opportunity to say, no, this doesn't work for us, and county can say, we want to leave it county property, and we're not going to go along with what the city says. So it just gives us an opportunity to discuss it.
So we don't ever see that coming to us to vote. Like now the planning commission, they'll do something and it kicks back to us. So sometimes this comes back to this body
this joint body. Yep.
Commissioner Barth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Teresa, that is exactly what happens. We actually met last night over at our place with a joint meeting of the Sioux Falls and Minnehaha County Planning, and I sat there. It was a brief meeting last night. We actually had 3 meetings in 45 minutes. We first met jointly with the City of Del Rapids, then we met jointly with the City of Sioux Falls, and then we met as a Minnehaha County group. And so when there's something that we don't agree on, then it comes to us as this group here to look at. And we've had a few that have gone one way or the other, but people get a full hearing and are able to come in. Hope that helps.
Yes, it does. Thanks.
Councilmember Erickson?
Thank you. I have a couple questions if I can. I'm curious why not a joint jurisdiction area around the Brandon on the east side there? There's nothing identified there.
It is identified. It was agreed upon. That boundary's not changing. So that was agreed upon with Brandon back previously.
So that's already there.
So
and
that
existing.
black line is the agreed upon line.
Okay. My other question is I know that recently there was a fairly large area that Crooks identified. Mm-hmm. Has that been rewritten?
It's been addressed yes, it has. So we originally proposed it to Crooks, and that's the black line up there.
Okay.
And after a year, Crooks came back to us and said, we agree upon what you had originally proposed. The red line is equal between the 2 jurisdictions, so we wanted to straighten it out and make this appropriate. You wanted to have it legally described. And after Crooks had proposed it to Minnehaha County, they understood, Crooks did, that they needed to come back and make the line as you see it here. And so we've basically...
Sense, because you would think that that community may be growing at a little bit of a different pace than other communities.
All we were saying to them was, it doesn't really matter to us, but make it so that it makes sense. Go along a line. Don't make it at an angle so you don't split people's properties, and just try to make it to seem the most sense. And after a year, they said, okay, we agree with you.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Is there anyone in the audience that wanted to speak on this issue? If not, I'd entertain a motion from Minnehaha County to approve this.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
May I have a motion on the city side to adopt the Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County 2040 Comprehensive Plan?
Move to approve, Neitzer.
Second, Erickson.
Okay, that has been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
All right. Next item is to consider a motion to authorize final design approval of the Siouxland Heritage Museum Archive Facility. Bill Hoskins.
Good evening. Bill Hoskins, Director, Siouxland Heritage Museums. I also have here today Keith Thompson, architect with Koch Hazard Architects, the project architect. Also a number of members of the Siouxland Heritage Museums Board, who are mostly citizens in the audience, some former board members, volunteers, and members of the Alliance Board as well. I'm here to talk a little bit about the museum's collections. And currently, the Siouxland Heritage Museum's collections, those artifacts that make up the community's cultural heritage, are stored in 3 different locations: the Old Courthouse Museum, the Pettigrew Homan Museum, and at a rented off-site facility. Several of those spaces have no environmental controls, no air conditioning, no heat, and are not good storage for the museum collection. Our Old Courthouse and Pettigrew are fantastic buildings, icons of the community's history, but they do have some structural limitations. Space, well, the museum's probably like any other department, city, or county that comes up here is going to say they have space concerns, they could use more space. We could, but one of the big challenges with space for us is also access. Our staff has challenges accessing the collection. It's physically in 3 different addresses. Even at the Old Courthouse, it's on 4 different floors in 20 different spaces within the building. It is not efficient storage. But bigger issue is access for the public. We don't have a public workroom for the staff or for the public at the Old Courthouse Museum. They work in the same space the staff and volunteers are working in, where we're in processing collections, and that poses somewhat of a security issue. We also lack any security at the rented location. The museum board has really approached this project with a number of objectives. One, we want to move the collection to one location where the existing staff can efficiently and effectively manage the collection. We want to provide a stable, controlled environment for these objects that make up the community's cultural heritage. We want to provide a clean, safe work environment for the public and the staff, the people who manage the collection. We're looking for a secure location to keep the museum, the community's cultural heritage, and finally, perhaps biggest, we want to continue to preserve 2 of our largest artifacts, the Old Courthouse Museum and Pettigrew Museum. There's been quite a bit of private support over the years that's developed with this. Probably first and foremost that's made this project a possibility is a donation by Bob and Kari Hall of 25 acres of land, 5 as a building site, and 20 that were sold late last year to help raise funds for this project. We've also, through a number of small private donations and allocations from the museum's endowment, we have $100,000 currently available and earmarked for this project in the museum's Special Enterprise Fund. And in the past, to bring the project this far, we've spent about $68,000 in privately raised money. That's already spent in getting the project developed to this point. The building site, and I should stop for a moment and just say that Bob and Kari are here with us tonight. They are great patrons of the museum. Kari has been a volunteer working in the collections department for over 20 years. She spends about 20 hours a week doing that, and we would be nowhere without them tonight. The building site's on 5 acres of land located in the southeast corner of North 54th Street and Westport Avenue. The building is sited and designed to allow future expansion of the structure, should that be desired, without really disrupting the existing envelope. Access would be off 54th Street. And the site plan, you can see, allows for expansion to the south. The plan really features a 28,000 square foot structure. 68% of the space would be for storage. About 15% is the mechanical systems that really make this good storage for museum's collection. We have about 10% for the staff workspace, staff and volunteers, and about 7% public workspace. If you look at the plan, the light blue area would be the staff and volunteer work area. The yellow is the public area, which would have restrooms, a conference room, and then a public work area. The gray, sort of the purple, is the storage, and the gray is mechanical space, hallway. One of the mechanical spaces, the largest, is not represented. It's a mezzanine that sits over the bathrooms, the conference room, and the public work area. That contains all the air handling units and for the facility. Exterior view, it's going to look the best from 54th Street and from Westport Avenue. The estimate of cost and the architect sheet that they usually provide to me says preliminary estimate of probable cost or something, which should tell you a lot just in those words, but this is the estimate, best estimates as it exists today. There are some variables included in this. One would be to not finish out all the staff space, and that would be a way of reducing the cost. That would not be highly desirable, but it's a possibility. Another would be to not make it a little bit smaller and knock off about 3,600 square feet off the back of the plan. Let's see here. If you look at it, it would be the cross-hatched area at the rear. So under the joint agreement, supplemental agreement from 2013, it says that we need to bring the final design to the joint meeting, that as a joint body, you need to approve the final design. The next step will be when we have bid documents for going out to bid, that you would authorize going out to bid. That has to be done in another joint meeting, probably in a couple months. And finally, once we have bids, the award of that contract also will be done in a joint meeting. And it also stipulates that any change orders for the project would also be approved in a joint meeting of the county commission and city council. So what we're asking for this evening would be an approval of the final plan. If you have questions, Keith is here and he can effectively answer questions. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Are there any questions for Bill? Go ahead.
Bill, could you talk a little bit more to the, there was a certain percentage, I think it was 7% of the building dedicated to public use. I get the public restrooms, I guess, but I mean, how much is the public going to be using this? There was a conference room there as well. Is this intended for your board, or are they considered public?
Well, we, couple ways of, we have the public using the museum's collection every day. They come in and look at historic photos of houses. They do research on their homes. They look at historic maps. We have a researcher who was there for a week, a couple weeks ago, just going through newspapers and documents from the 1920s. We have people who use the collection every day. And so we wanted to provide a clean, secure place that was dedicated for the public to be able to use the collection. The museum has a lot of public use, and we do have a lot of rental space and a lot of groups that we deal with every day who are looking for a meeting space. And so a conference space, a meeting room was included as part of this project very early on. And yes, I would expect the museum board would use it from time to time, but other organizations as well.
Hey, thank you. Great answer. I like the fact that the public is able to access archived items. Thank you.
Councilmember Staley?
Okay, just a refresher course for all of us. Of the approximately 1 million, that's broken down into thirds, correct? That we're responsible for.
I think the intent of the original agreement was, I think how it reads is, and I don't have it in front of me, but I could, is that the intent was 1/3 would be paid for by the city, 1/3 by the county, and 1/3 through privately raised funds. Now, the caveat on that is that in that agreement, the city said that their commitment would not exceed $1.3 million.
So how's that moving ahead then with your timetable? I mean, are the counties come up with all their money and you've raised everything you need, so it's all surrounding the 1.3? I mean, I would assume things are in place to go forward to have this thing done, or?
Well, Mr. Litz is probably the best versed in the funds in the county building fund. I'll let Bob address that.
Bob Litz from the County Auditor's Office, and thanks for allowing us to be down here today. And to date, with the expenses that we have, there is enough funds as it's currently designed to build the building. I would tell you that every year goes by, about 4% due to construction inflation cuts off the size of the building or our abilities to finish certain spaces. So, is there a specific question that I can answer?
No, well, I mean, I think we're committed to 1.3 million, and so that I just was, when we're talking about the private funds, and I mean, so everything, I didn't know that everything was.
Okay, the private funding came from the sale of the land, which we did a little bit better than we expected. It was 1.4, and in the county's portion, we achieved that through a refunding, an advance refunding of some bonds. And since we did an advance refunding, it allowed us to capture the cash that would be levied out there and put it in the building fund for this project.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, and then I've got a question for Bill. Just so this facility will be more like a place where you're transporting things from that facility to the other places in town, correct?
Yes, it would be a storage area. It's also a place where the staff that we already have will manage the collection, and we have about 20 volunteers who work in the collections department helping to manage that collection. When we have exhibitions, for instance, at the old courthouse museum, we have 6 exhibit galleries there. Objects will be moved from the collection storage to the old courthouse for that exhibition, transported back when it's done.
So does the museum have a special vehicle that would, or how do you do that?
Well, currently we do have a minivan that we use for programming and for transportation of artifacts when necessary. That's probably something that is also in our plan for the future, is to get that, and we've never bought a vehicle with public money.
And I just have to say, I really commend your volunteers. It sounds like this is supported by volunteer effort, and that's wonderful.
Yep.
Bravo.
Our volunteers are key to the organization's operation. We have an annual volunteer banquet the 27th of April this year. You'll all get an invitation.
Councilmember Erickson?
I'm going to put Bixler on the spot. I'm sorry, David Bixler, a little bit. Can I ask you a question? As far as what was left over in the 2016 budget, sorry, I should have asked you this earlier, and I thought maybe Tracy would be here, but I'm curious what was left over from 2016 budget approximately. I know we were given a slide, and I can't remember.
I believe it is Dave Bixler, budget analyst for the City Council. I believe it's right around $1 million. And we're still waiting for the CAFR to come out and the audit to be completed, so we really don't have a final number.
And when will that be? Do you know?
Should be coming out here soon.
Very soon. Okay. And that money has not been committed to anywhere yet.
No, Director Turbach said that he would recommend keeping the amount in the fund just due to the fact that the sales tax has been softening.
Right, but regardless, and this isn't for you, but regardless, we have committed to it and we owe the $1.3 million. So what's the difference if we use what was left over from 2016 or if we got to make good on the deal. So I just was curious where those numbers fell. Thank you.
Councilmember Bach?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of things. This is one of those projects that we've been working on for a long time, and I appreciate the way Councilor Erickson said that we have to make good on our promises on this project. We have signed on the dotted line saying we're going to provide this money. And then I would just also remind the council that if you haven't toured the facilities and seen where the storage is, that is something that you need to add to your list. And I would say that Mr. Hoskins is being sort of generous in terms of the third storage location because it's secure with pretty limited padlocks. And so it's one of those places where you drive up to it and go, oh gosh, there's some pretty valuable, amazing stuff here. And if obviously it's kind of a secret location, but it's one of those things that it's time that because the public uses it every day, you know, Mr. Biology teacher, the history teachers out there watching are going, of course the public uses it every day. And so it is one of those things that this community is behind, and we really need to make this happen. And I would be happy to make a motion when it's appropriate.
Okay. Any further questions? Yes.
More of a statement. This is the type of project that I got into government to be part of. The Hall stepped forward with a very generous donation. They saw a need as their work and involvement with the museum. The Museum Alliance stepped forward and raised a considerable amount of money. There's public donations. There's the county and the city getting together and saying we have a need in our community. This is the way we should govern. This is the way, the commitment that we've made, but all the people coming together to make this project get to this point is something that I think we can all be very proud of, and something as we move forward as this building's accomplished. And getting the public access to these artifacts is probably the most important part of this building and why I support it so fully. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
And once again, we are approving tonight the plans for the building. And Bill, could you come forward again and just reiterate once again the next steps after this
Sure
evening
thing.
or this afternoon?
The next steps really would be approval of the design. At that point, then the architect will prepare the actual construction documents to take this project out to bid. It will come back to you to authorize that notice to bidders, which is taken care of by the auditor's office, and that follows a specific legal procedure. And then the next step would be bid award, which will come back to the joint body. And after that, contracts and start work. And we would hope that we would be completed sometime summer of 2018.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Barth?
Bill, so as we look at this project going forward and the timeline, we don't have to have all the money on, July 1st or anything, right? I mean, this is going to be in stages and steps, and you said it probably won't be actually complete until 18. Is this what I heard?
That's what my anticipation would be.
Thank you.
Do we know when you need the city's portion of the money, before or after January 1st, 2018? The timing that would need to be required to get the schedule done?
I guess I don't know exactly, Greg. I think that Bob has expressed an opinion in the past that we could probably cost flow this with the city. Am I misquoting?
No, that's Bill's accurate. You know, we met with some city officials here probably 3 months ago, and since it wasn't, the time lapsed from the original appropriation, I think it was 3 years, it wasn't in the 2017 budget, so we agreed with the city to put it in the 2018 budget. So the city's portion will be available until then. And we can, with the money we've got in our building fund, we can pay for the advance the project as whenever we want to start it, is what I'm trying to say. We can cash flow this until 2018.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And just to bring some clarity to the issue, as luck would have it, the city has had it in their budget for a number of years running. And then with our 2017 budget, it was removed, and the stars aligned on the county side. So now the money's on the county side, and so that's why we're really having that discussion today. But we do have every intention to honor our commitment, and we appreciate your willingness to work with us on that. Thank you, Bill.
Anyone else? If not, I'd entertain a motion on the county side to authorize final design approval of the Siouxland Heritage Museum archive facility.
That's my motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Do we have a motion on the city side?
So moved, Erpenbach.
Second Star.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Council members Erickson, Erpenbach,
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzert,
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Okay, is there any further business to discuss?
Madam Chair, if I might just make another comment here, which is that this project has languished for a very, very long time, and finally it's again moving a few steps forward, and I'm really looking forward to getting this accomplished before I start pushing daisies someplace. And you know, let's get her done. That's all I can say. And you know, one thing Bill mentioned is that all the stuff we have stored in the Pettigrew and in the Courthouse Museum actually are a threat to those structures, and they are our two greatest artifacts in themselves. And we can't, you know, put all our eggs in one basket and allow those things to be damaged. Thank you very much for your support on this. I say that to the council and my fellow commissioners.
Thank you. Commissioner Karski.
Just follow up on that. The Hall family has been just fantastic with their patience. I mean, this has been a project that for most people would look at government and say, wow, 10 years or whatever it's taken so far. So we appreciate the patience there. And it's really going to happen. So thank you.
Okay, anything else? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'm willing to adjourn, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion on the city side to adjourn.
Erpenbach.
May we have a second?
Second, Neitzert.
All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.